You know, for centuries, the Greek city-states were these absolute titans of the ancient world. We're talking philosophy, democracy, military power, the whole package. But then, almost in the blink of an eye, it was all over. So how did this incredible civilization get brought to its knees? Well, it wasn't by some huge foreign army. It was a sickness that came from within. Remember this year, 338 BC. On the surface, yeah, it's just a date. But this single year marks a hard stop. It's the end of an era for the independent Greek city-states that we all know from the history books. So how did it actually happen? How did this brilliant, messy world of Athens and Thebes and Sparta just crumble? The answer isn't some simple story of a battle lost. It's about a really deep-seated problem, something the Greeks knew all too well, a problem they had a specific and frankly a terrifying name for. That problem was called stasis. And let me be clear, this wasn't just a political disagreement. This was like a chronic disease that infected the very heart of Greek society. So the word stasis literally means something like standing or a faction. But for the Greeks, it came to mean so much more. It was civil war, it was revolution and insurgency, a constant looming threat of neighbor turning on neighbor. It was the violent tearing apart of society from the inside out. What's really wild is how the Greeks themselves thought about this. They didn't see stasis as some political failure they could just, fix with a new law. No, they saw it as this unstoppable force of nature, like a plague or a hurricane, just lying dormant inside their city, waiting for a chance to erupt. But here's the thing about this natural disaster. It didn't just strike once and then go away. It had this terrifying ability to feed on itself, to actually grow stronger with every single conflict. And to get our heads around this, we need to think about systems and something called feedback loops. And this, right here, is the key. Stasis wasn't a straight line. An act of violence wasn't just the end of something, it became the cause of the next, even bigger act of violence. It created this vicious cycle, a feedback loop where the conflict just kept feeding itself, becoming more and more dangerous. This is a perfect illustration of how it worked. So look at this reinforcing loop. Step 1, a faction wins some small victory. Okay, that success makes them look like winners, right? So step 2, more people are drawn to their cause. Now they're bigger. So step 3, they win an even bigger battle. And the cycle just keeps repeating. And what started as a tiny dispute spirals into a full-blown civil war. Revenge fuels more revenge, and the chaos just grows exponentially. Now, while the Greek cities are busy literally tearing themselves apart, a new power is rising just to the north. A very clever, very ambitious king was watching all of this, and he was building a completely different kind of state up in Macedon. His name was Philip II. I mean, this comparison says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you've got Greece, just paralyzed by constant stasis, total disunity, and unpredictable chaos. And on the other side, you've got Philip's Macedon, centralized, efficient, and united. It was the perfect storm, really. And Philip's plan, man, it was methodical. He didn't just get lucky. He pulled all the power to himself. He made the nobility loyal by giving them a stake in his success. He totally overhauled his army, creating the legendary Macedonian phalanx. And, this is the really clever part, he played the Greek cities against each other, offering to mediate their endless fights. Oh, and he grabbed the silver mines at Amphipolis to pay for the whole operation. The man built a machine for conquest. So you've got a Greek world that's been weakened by its own internal sickness, and a unified, powerful Macedon that's ready and willing to take advantage of that weakness. It was really only a matter of time before these two opposing forces were going to collide in a way that would change history forever. And that collision was the Battle of Chaeronea. But this wasn't just a battle of armies. It was a battle of ideas. It was the physical results of decades of internal division getting absolutely crushed by focused external unity. And that brings us right back to our date, 338 BCE. Now we see it not just as some random year, but as the final stop. This is the moment where stasis finally delivered its ultimate consequence. The outcome of that battle was immediate, and there was no going back. The old power structure of Greece was completely shattered, and a new leader, a new hegemon, stepped in to take control. Philip made his dominance official with something called the League of Corinth. And as you can see from this table, the great cities, Athens, Thebes, Corinth, they weren't independent anymore.
they were subordinate members of a league controlled by one guy, Philip. Only Sparta, in one last defiant move, refused to join, and that just left them powerless and totally isolated.
So the ultimate takeaway here is pretty huge. The Battle of Chaeronea wasn't just another loss in a long line of Greek wars. No, it was the end. The end of the classical era of the independent city-state. Greece would continue, sure, but from this point on, it would be under the shadow of Macedon, which, by the way, set the stage perfectly for Philip's son, a kid named Alexander the Great.
Which leaves us with a question that's pretty timeless, isn't it? The story of the fall of the Greeks really forces us to ask, what is the real threat? Is it the enemy you can see marching towards your borders? Or is it the sickness of division, the stasis that can rot a nation from the inside out?